Hey, good afternoon. This is Trader Tim from EminiMind, and I'm doing a market analysis for Monday, the 28th of March, 2022. The rally continues. So, last week I was a bit early on my put hedge that I put on the NASDAQ, the Qs rather, on the 21st. So I ended up just closing that out the next day. We went higher and just took a little loss and got out. I did end up just a few minutes ago putting on another put hedge, a small one, again in the Qs here, just because we came up to the 50%. On the other hand, the S&P has broken above its 61.8. So I'm not super hopeful, but we have come a long ways off of lows, and even if we continue this move higher, we should get a pullback to the 50% long. So, given everything that's going on with oil and the Russia-Ukraine, this rally might not make sense, but you just can't fight it. You have to trade what you see. You can't fight the market. I'm okay spending a little bit of money, putting on a put hedge in case we do go lower. You know, if I, um, let's say I liquidated my portfolio and thinking that we're going lower, and let's say 330 here in the Qs, and then all of a sudden you're up at 365. Trying to pick the tops and bottoms is a really hard game to play, because if you miss a move like this, where you get out, where you should have stayed and doubled down and bought, which I did do, I will say, with a little bit of luck on the open of the 24th. I did add to my long-term positions. Um, if you liquidate and you wait for the market to go lower to buy back, you can get stuck in a situation like this where the market's just up, up, up every single day, and you zoom in here, and it's like every day is a higher low, higher low, higher low, all the way up. And so I would rather just spend a little bit of money on the put hedge insurance every once in a while than try and get in, get out of that longer term position. I wanted to run through a handful of other charts here. I'll try to keep the video short. VIX, I had the uptrend line. We talked about this in last Tuesday's trading session. We broke the uptrend line, you know, very clearly here, and no real signs of volatility bouncing up at this point. Every time we get a little bit of what looks like a turn higher, it just comes back down. So, um, yeah, the rally continues. I will just leave it at that. The Dow sitting kind of between its 50 and the 61.8, but also having broke its downtrend line. And then the Russell just sitting underneath its 50%. It's been sort of the lagger of the bunch. The other things, other markets that I wanted to touch on, um, Bitcoin here, I talked fairly at length about buying it up. I bought at 36 and at 38 when we came down to this upward trend line here. We kind of came down, we touched, then we broke through it and then rallied right back to it. Then we came down, touched it again, little bounce, came down, touched it again. So I have been actually building up a Bitcoin position again. I sold most of it at 59,000, converted the rest to ETH, and then have been sitting on that, rode that down through the dip, and still holding my Ethereum. But then I bought back some more Bitcoin, like I said, 36, 38, and then a few more little buys in here as well. So this one, looking for a move up to the 50%, 51,000. We've clearly broken above the ascending triangle. That was the pattern. I was looking for it to bounce back and forth here and then come up and break highs. And then ETH, the last uh, chart here, broke above the downtrend line very clearly here, strong break, as well as above. This was kind of the major swing high. A swing high here and here as well, but this was the big one. So things are looking good. A 50% retracement on Ethereum. Let's see here. Looks something. We just call it 3,600. So getting fairly close to that. This position I've got from way, way back. So, uh, you know, anything here is just gravy. let's go to the ES really quickly. We'll mark our new gap here. Well, we got a couple minutes before the settlement closes. Last week I had a question, do I use the 4 o'clock Eastern close or the settlement close? I use the settlement. So if you're looking at the ES futures contract and you turn off trading hour or you turn off overnight session, the last candle that prints, it's almost 15 minutes after the NYSE has closed, but this candle's still forming. This is the settlement close once this candle closes. That's the candle that I use for the close, specifically for the first 15-minute breakout bar. So you can see here's our start of the day, this dotted line. So this red little hammer was the last candle that closed on Friday. That was the settlement close of a 45, 35, 50. And so the first 15-minute bar filled that gap. So there was no 15-minute play this morning. Just running through my notes here. One thing that stood out to me today was the first 30-minute range. And we were actually in a pretty choppy, fairly messy hour and a half off of the open. And notice we came up to the high of the day, and then that formed the 30-minute range. And the two gray lines here were the high and the low of the first 30 minutes. And if you mark those points on your chart, and if the market stays inside of that 30-minute high and low, by definition, you're range bound, and you really want to stay out of the middle of this range. You don't want to be taking longs. Look, that would have been a stop out. It broke the 61.8, or shorts in the middle of the range. Whether you use, whatever low you use here, all of these, getting stopped out in this first. Here's the hour and a half mark right here. So very, very sloppy, choppy, range-bound morning session. You just want to stay out of that. I didn't end up with any trades. I was actually out of town on Friday, so I just kind of used today to ease back in. Most of you know if it's a holiday weekend or if I'm going on Friday, I tend to use Monday as a kind of reboot to just ease into the day, and I often won't take a trade or maybe just one trade on a Monday in that situation. Tesla announced that likely going to be doing a stock split, going to take a vote here at the next annual meeting, it sounds like, but that will likely fuel a kind of a push in tech, and it's a little counterintuitive, taking the put hedge in the tech sector here with the Qs. But if you look at the relative strength and weakness, as we talked about last week, what we're doing is saying, okay, here is the S&P's halfway back, and we're actually up at the 61.8, whereas the Nasdaq is just making it to its 50%. So it has not risen as much as the S&P. It's actually relatively weaker than the S&P. Now Tesla is in the S&P, so there's some crossover with the tech stocks in the S&P. But by and large, relative strength and weakness, the Nasdaq has been relatively weaker. It has pulled back more. If you look at some of the dividend or like the blue chip stocks or the dividend ETF, Vanguard's dividend ETF, that has a lot of those blue chip, Dow stocks. It's trading up pretty close to its prior highs, all-time highs, whereas a tech fund like the VUG, which I like to use, is further away. But if you go out to a 5-year chart, look at the growth from the Vanguard, their growth fund, versus that dividend fund. Relative price to where we are now hasn't grown nearly as much. So if you are young and you're looking for a long-term growth ETF or fund, if you will, the Vanguard is a great one. 10, 20, 30, 50 years out, fantastic. If you're looking for more of a dividend returning fund, that VYM, or if you're just looking to kind of keep you're not necessarily looking to grow your capital, more preserve it because your time horizon is much shorter. That's a good one, VYM. And then just the Vanguard S&P, standard S&P fund is VOO. And if you're for whatever reason trying to segment your account, or let's say you got you got a kid and you're trying to you've got one account that you're allocating some funds towards for kids college or whatnot, and you want to separate it from the VUG versus just saying, okay, well, 100 of those shares are earmarked for little Johnny. You could use the Vanguard, the VOO. That's their S&P fund. So those are kind of three worth looking at. Otherwise, not a whole lot to go into intraday as far as trades go. So tomorrow morning we're doing a live trading session. You can check that out at eminimind.com/VIP. And I hope everyone has a great week. We'll talk soon.